All right, friends, welcome back. My name is Logan with West Desert Shooter. We are back with another episode of Reloading and Results with my Preece Precision barrel. This one is chambered in 7mm-08. It's my American Rifle Company Archimedes action sitting in an American Rifle Company chassis. It's the CeeLo chassis. And then we've got a Tract Toric Ultra HD, this one's the MRAD ELR. So it's a 4.5 to 30 power scope, 34mm tube. Tract scopes are some of my absolute favorite scopes. This is the nicest scope that I own, and I put it on the nicest rifle that I own. So this is what was my competition rifle. It used to be chambered in 6mm Creedmoor, and I had a new barrel done up for it so that I could play with 7mm-08, specifically to reload and play with. You know, it should do fine shooting out to distance, but mostly I just wanted to play with 7mm-08 as a cartridge just to learn more about it. In doing so, I ended up picking a 308 Winchester up as well. I should have a 308 Winchester up just before this or just after this, so however I decide to go. But yeah, if you want to see more 308 reloading content, it's there. But this one is for my 7mm-08. In today's video, we're going to be playing with some interesting bullets here. Going back a ways in the channel, when I first started my Tikka T3X build, this is years ago. I mean, there's been years that I haven't even posted anything at this point. But this is years back when I was consistently posting, and I was building a 7mm WSM at the time. Told everybody I was getting into 7mm. One of my subscribers reached out and was like, hey man, I've got some 7mm bullets. I'm not going to use them. Are you interested in them? And I was broke as hell at the time, arguably still am. And he sent out a couple boxes of 7mm bullets, a lot more than I expected. I think I ended up with like 500 to 700 bullets. And they were all different, a little bit different. You know, you got some Sierras, we got quite a few Spears, and then we had a few boxes of Hornady as well. So pretty awesome. Super, super awesome that guy was able to do that. I apologize. They may still watch the channel. I don't know. But unfortunately, I don't remember exactly who sent those to me. But thank you. I really do appreciate it. We are finally getting to a point where I can go out and shoot those in a cartridge that makes sense. Because I ended up building a 7 SAUM, and I had it custom chambered specifically for the 180 class bullets, and I didn't really want to play with other stuff and burn out the life of the barrel. This gun, this is what it's for. So 7mm Sierras, they're 140 grain Spitzer boat tails. These are old bullets. I just realized there's a date on these guys, and these bad boys were made in May 4th of 1998. So these are old bullets at this point. I am older than the bullets, so we can at least say that. They're not super old because, you know, they're not as old as I am, at least. But so they've been waiting all this time, ready to go to the range. The other bullet we're going to be playing with is something very modern, something a lot more recent than those, at least. It's a 7mm 162 grain ELD-X bullet. I think I mistakenly bought the X. I thought they were ELD-Ms because I previously had a box of those, and I realized lately that I was like, oh shit, these are ELD-X, not ELD-Ms. So it was worth another test, you know? Throw it in the rifle, see how they do. So I chose 2 powders for each bullet. And the 140s are a lighter bullet, so I tried to choose something that burned a little bit faster. And then the 162s are a little heavier bullets, so you choose some powders that burn a little bit slower. Or at least that's how I chose them for this particular test. So on the Sierra 140s, are the 2 powders we're shooting with that H4895 and Vitavori N540. On the Hornady 162s, we've got Reloader 16 and 6.5 Stay Ball. So pretty cool. I think that's a good lineup, good mixture there. As far as like modern powders go, 4895 is the only like old school one holding it down. N540's got to be pretty current. Reloader 16, I remember that coming out, and 6.5 Stay Ball, to me at least, is still a new powder. Depends on how into shooting you are, if that still feels new to you. But there's some people who may not have ever tried 6.5 Stay Ball. There's probably some who've tried it and either love it or moved on, either way. So this isn't about a powder charge particularly. This is just kind of like, hey, how does this powder interact with this bullet overall? Does the gun like that combo? Because I've kind of found that like the powder charge ranges trying 2/10 more and 2/10 more and 2/10 more doesn't show me all that often that like oh wow, I added 2/10 of powder and now it's a magical thing. It's this magical combination. It either shoots good with that powder and you can fine tune it, or it doesn't like that combo. And I'm kind of going with that philosophy at this point in life. So let's take a look at our groups. These Sierras, again, from 1998. Now I finally load them up, put them through this modern rifle with all this fancy stuff. How do they shoot, right? To my surprise, I laid down, shot a 3-shot zero confirmation, which wasn't real pretty. And then I decided to go ahead and start shooting groups. The gun was warmed up. It wasn't a cold bore, at least, so you can get that out of the equation. Also, I did clean. No, I did not clean this barrel. So this barrel was fouled up during this shooting. Not real bad. I mean, maybe 50 rounds on it before I shot these groups, at least since its last cleaning. So Group A. I lay down and I shoot Group A. It's H4895. I loaded up 38 grains of powder in it. We're using CCI BR2 primers, and we're using brand new Alpha Munitions 7mm-08 brass. Amazing brass made in Salt Lake City. I'm from Utah, so it's really cool to see, all the gun companies who are also from Utah, but specifically seeing like someone who's a master of their craft, like Alpha Munitions. These guys like seriously rival Lapua in their quality. Arguably better, depends on who you ask, at least. But very nice, high quality brass for sure. So we use good components in this guy, and we're using old bullets. What happens to it? With H4895, with an overall length of 2.780, that's the same overall length we use for both of these powders, by the way. Our velocity was 2559 with an SD of 8. 8's just fine. It's under 10 feet a second. I'm happy with that. And our group ended up being a 0.64 inch group. A really good looking group too. Like 3 of them clover leafed, and then we had just 2 of them just outside of that clover leaf area there. And so 5 shots into 0.64 inches, really not a bad way to start the day. I was pretty happy about that. Sitting at 100 yards, I could tell it was a good group. And when I went and walked up to it, I was like, yep, that is a good group. Group B, this is N540. So this is I believe it's a double base powder is what N540 is. It's like the hot rod version of N140, which I have tried and tried to find, but I haven't successfully found it. I did recently see it, but I hadn't been shooting in months, and I was like, man, I don't know if I need to justify spending $80 on a pound of powder right now. I haven't shot in so long anyway. Now as I sit here and talk about it, I was like, shit, man, I should have just bought that. Regardless, N540, the fancy new powder, it's not that new, but it's newer at least. 2667 feet a second, so we picked up a lot of velocity there. And then our SD actually went down to a very impressive 4.3. So let's see, 4895 was 2550 feet a second, and N540 was 2670 feet a second. So 120 feet a second faster from the N540, and no pressure signs at all, not on either one of them. But it did shoot another solid group. This one isn't quite as pretty, but I'm not mad about it. It's a 0.79 inch group. Again, no load development, not fine tuning it or tweaking it. It's just like, what does N540 do behind a 140 grain Spitzer boat tail? Let's find out. For the record, this Preece Precision barrel that was spun up for me here, it is a 20-inch length barrel, and it's a 1-to-8 twist, and it has a CIP spec chamber in it. So it's not a SAMI chamber. The CIP has, I believe, a 199 free bore. So it's got more free bore for the heavy bullets, and we'll get into that later. But for this one, that's what it is. And I loaded it up to the suggested length, and I think it had really impressive results for, just out of the book data into a CIP chamber rifle. See how she does. So overall, really impressed by these old Sierras. They shot really well, and it's a hunting bullet. It's not a match bullet anyway, but because it's got the Sierra name on it, I knew that they could shoot good, and what do you know, they certainly do. Let's move on to the modern bullet, the Hornady 162 ELDX. This thing's a lot longer and sleeker and sexier and cooler for long-range shooting. How does it shoot at 100 yards? How does it compare to the old Sierras with, the less sexy appeal of the just Spitzer nose on it versus the ELDX tip that doesn't deform in flight and all sorts of fun stuff like that. The 2 powders, as a reminder, are Reloader 16 and 6.5 Stay Ball. For Reloader 16, I used 42 grains, and it was compressed at an overall length of 2.850. Let's see here, velocity 2450. Now we are shooting a heavier bullet, so we would expect to lose some speed there, and indeed we did. SD of 21, I believe that my chronograph was bouncing in the wind because I had a strong crosswind out there today. It was minimum 5 miles an hour, gusts up to 15, but probably a steady 5 to 10 mile an hour crosswind, like 90-degree full crosswind across my range here. So that's certainly not helping us shoot just bug holes, right? But at 100 yards with a 162 ELDX, you know, from 0 to 10 miles an hour, that's only going to deflect your bullet an inch or so. So these groups should still be moderately decent, and it was a consistent crosswind. So the differences of where the wind was at, whatever, we shouldn't see huge spreads across the paper. It should still fight the wind and do pretty good, especially at 100 yards. It's hauling ass still. So it shoots into 0.8 inches on our Group C. Very little vertical dispersion. And like I say, the left to right from the wind, I could see that being from the wind. Overall, I really like this group. I think it looks great on paper considering the wind situation that we had. And I think that if I went out on a calm morning, we could probably shrink that group back up at least a 1/4 inch. I think it's got it in it. That looks really good and promising. Then we shoot 6.5 stay ball. Now, 6.5 stay ball, I changed the overall length because Reloader 16 was quite compressed. And I was like, you know what, let's just bump out the OAL a little bit. I checked the maximum overall length with these bullets before I loaded and did all that, and I had room to do so. So I bumped those out to 2.9 overall length. And so we should see a little drop off in velocity from bumping it at 50 thousandths longer. And the velocity we got, I guess it's a different powder, so it doesn't matter. 44 grains from stay ball, 6.5, and we get 2541 feet a second. An SD of 12.3, not the best. Again, maybe that chronograph's getting blown around a little bit. It's the FX True Ballistic chronograph, so it's a radar chronograph. I picked that up from Utah Airguns. Utah Airguns has a ton of awesome long-range shooting accessories that you can totally use on your centerfire stuff. Don't overlook them. They're a fantastic optics dealer. They've got great stuff like chronographs and all that. And then if you want to get some practice rounds in, definitely check out Utah Airguns. Air rifles are super fun, super family friendly, and you can have them shipped directly to your door. You can put, you know, quiet parts on the end of them, and they can ship those directly to your door as well because they are not a firearm. You could also get full auto versions as well, which are super fun. So check out Utah Airguns. They got a lot of fun toys there. But thanks to Utah Airguns for that chronograph and letting me borrow that out there. Getting back to stay ball, SD of 12.3, not the greatest. I do have a note here saying that it had harder extractions on the brass. Now this rifle is really cool because it's the American Rifle Company Archimedes. So as you lift the bolt, there is no extraction process done. There's no camming surface to pull the brass out. And then there's actually a lever that pivots in relation to the bolt body. And if you need to like really put some oomph into the extraction of that thing, when you have a hotter load, you can feel it in the lever as you pull the bolt back. So it'll actually like cam into it a little bit and you can tell. These were not the worst I've ever felt through this gun, but I could tell like, yo, this thing is camming at this point. These are a little bit hotter rounds here. So I could at least tell that the Archimedes was doing its job, and extraction was just a little bit. So people might call those clickers on like a Remington 700 pattern rifle. So they're probably a little spicy, but I don't know, nothing too scary. The brass all looked fine, but the group there was a 1.55. I don't know if I was just overshooting at that point or if the wind was really kicking my ass on this particular group, or straight up 6.5 stay ball doesn't get along with the 162 ELDX in my gun. I don't know. Overall, not very impressed. Probably not going to go back to that combo at least. Maybe later I'll try stay ball with a different bullet or try different powder with this bullet. The Reloader 16 and this bullet got along great, but it was also at a 50 thousandths shorter length. So it's hard to say who did what here. MDT Skypod out front on that chassis. It's got the Arca rail built into it. And then we have the Huxwrx 7.62 tie can that I was using on this. This gun being a 20-inch barrel, even with the suppressor on it, is loud. Like, you still need ear pro with this thing. It's a pretty loud pop. It's more comfortable, at least. It's uncomfortable at that point without ear pro. It's kind of like, yeah, I could do it, but it's not great. And then, yeah, that's just kind of the overall setup of the gun. And MDT 12 round steel mag. Overall, what do I think? I'm really impressed with Group A, and I see real potential in Group C. I'm not mad at Group B at all. The only one that was a little disappointing was Group D. but I still can see that the 162 ELDX has potential in this rifle. I think it can do well. The Sierras are definitely making another comeback. We're going to try them with other powders as well. Maybe even chase after that H4895 group some more and see how that goes. But that's the overall breakdown of this reloading and results, guys. I hope you enjoyed looking at the groups, hearing about the different powders and combos I've got. Again, this is brand new alpha brass, so maybe by the time I reload it and it's fire formed to the chamber, we can see better performance. But I did get 200 pieces of that, so it's going to take some time to get every one of those fired through the rifle, and then we're getting back into reloading and bumping that shoulder just perfectly for the chamber, all that fun stuff. So I'm going to shut up, quit talking about numbers. Thank you guys for watching very much. I really appreciate it. We're closing in on 50,000 subs, which is kind of funny because I've done nothing in the last 3 years, and the channel has continued to grow just organically, even despite YouTube being horrible to gun channels and not sharing my content at all. Got 50,000 subscribers. I'm going to get what? 2.5 thousand views on this video, maybe 4K if it does great in 3 years. So we'll see how that goes. But I appreciate the few of you of that subscriber list that do still get to watch these videos and do watch and engage. I enjoy talking with you guys. Be sure to follow me on Instagram as well. Speaking of pages that I don't post enough on and just still organically grow, but it's getting shadow banned there too, as far as the shooter stuff goes. I still love it. It's for the love of the game. It's for nothing else. I'm not making any money on this anymore. YouTube's just strangled this channel to death as far as making money. So this is literally just me going out and shooting and sharing with you guys because I like to. So I thank you guys again, and we will see you in the next one.